The Cowboys have everybody locked in on Caleb Downs, and look, rightfully so. But while that conversation is dominating the timeline, there's another guy quietly sitting in the draft class who might end up being the most important pick of this whole draft when it's all said and done. That's what your new defensive coordinator, Christian Parker, believes. Plus, there's an intense CB2 battle heating up between Shavon Revel and Cobie Durant, and I believe that is about to get really interesting in upcoming training camp. Let me break it all down right now for you. What's up, Cowboys? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Cowboys. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I am talking about Malachi Lawrence, 23rd overall pick on 2026 draft. That was the second Cowboys pick in first round. Now, I genuinely think people are sleeping on this pick. Like, everyone's running around talking about Caleb Downs, and I get it. But when you really sit down and think about what this Cowboys defense needed, what Christian Parker was actually asking for, Malachi Lawrence is the answer to a question this team has been sitting with for a while now. They needed juice off the edge, not just a guy who can hold the point of attack and be solid against the run. They needed that athlete, that prototypical outside linebacker who can turn the corner and go get the quarterback. And honestly, Malachi Lawrence checks every single box.
Look, when you watch him play, the first thing that jumps out is the size. We're talking 6'5", 250-plus pounds. That's not just good size. That's the kind of size that makes offensive coordinators lose sleep on a Thursday night. And then you add the long arms, athleticism, the pass rush ability, and you've got yourself something really special. His pass rush rate relative to the snaps he actually played was eye-opening. Now, he didn't get is Danielle Hunter. I mean, when you look at the growth trajectory, the size, the way he attacks the edge, if Malachi Lawrence continues to develop, that's the ceiling we could be looking at here. And that's not me being reckless with the comparison. That's me looking at the tape and saying this kid has real tools to work with. Some people have mentioned Josh Sweat as the mold the Cowboys want to put him in, and I think that's fair too. Either way, you're talking about a high-level pass rusher comparison, and that should tell you everything. Here's what I really love about his situation, though, right? He doesn't come in carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. Caleb Downs is the face of this draft class for Dallas. The press conferences, the cameras, the expectations, that's all going to Caleb. Malachi gets to come in, keep his head down, work, and just be part of the rotation. And honestly, that's perfect for a young edge rusher. You don't want to thrust a rookie into 75% of the snaps right away and just watch him grind himself into the ground. You want to ease him in, let him be that designated pass rusher, let him learn the system, and then watch him grow into something bigger.
And that's what Christian Parker's defense is built for. You know, this isn't a scheme that's going to put it all on one guy to generate pressure. You're going to get safety blitzes, corner blitzes, nickel pressure packages. It's going to be a full collective effort. So Malachi doesn't have to be the entire answer on day one. He just has to be a piece. And if he's a really good piece from jump, then you've hit the lottery. The Cowboys already have Rashan Gary as that run-stopping edge defender who can also rush the passer, and now you slide Malachi Lawrence in as that uber-athletic speed rusher on the other side. That's a combination that can grow into something really dangerous over the next few years. Now, let's pivot over to the secondary, because this CB2 situation is something I've been watching closely, and I think it's going to be one of the most compelling battles of training camp. DaRon Bland, when healthy, is your CB1, no question. You slide him into that starting corner spot and you feel good about it. But right there next to him at CB2, that's where it gets interesting. Right now, I'm putting Shavon Revel there on the depth chart. And look, I think most people who've been following this team closely would do the same. The Cowboys front office has been high on Revel since they drafted him. They've talked about his ability, talked about how if it hadn't been for the injury he suffered, he would have gone a lot higher in the draft than he actually did. And when you look at what he brings, his size, his athleticism, everything about his potential, you understand the excitement. He's who you want there. He's who you're building toward.
But I'm also not going to sit here and pretend that Cobie Durant isn't going to push him hard, because he absolutely is. Durant on Sundays in the NFL has shown he can be a capable starting corner. He was brought in as insurance, right? If the young guys weren't ready, if someone got hurt, you wanted a proven veteran who could step in and hold things down. And that's smart roster building. But capable insurance can turn into a starter real quick if the guy ahead of him doesn't perform. So Revel needs to come into training camp locked in and ready to work, because Durant is going to be right there breathing down his neck every single day. And then there's Devin Moore, who I think people are really underestimating. Honestly, when I watch him play, the thing that stands out immediately is his confidence. This is a guy who played in the SEC, went up against big-time receivers, handled his business, and didn't flinch. For a fourth-round pick, that mindset is everything. He's got the size, 6'3", and what impresses me is that he doesn't play small. You know how some tall corners struggle to move with smaller, quicker receivers running routes underneath? Devin Moore doesn't have that problem. He drops his weight, he mirrors, he plays faster than his size suggests. I like him a lot. Now think about this for a second. If Devin Moore turns out to be everything we hope he can be, and he's out there locking up George Pickens, that's not just a win for the Cowboys, that's a draft steal that people are going to be talking about for years. And if it doesn't happen right away, that's fine too, because you've already got Durant and Revel ahead of him. The depth is actually really solid when you lay it all out.
What makes all of this even more fascinating is the role that Caleb Downs plays in the whole equation, because he's not just a safety, he's a chess piece. The Cowboys can move him into the nickel, which changes how you think about the corner depth entirely. You've got Bland, who can play the slot. You've got Downs, who can play the slot. So now the math shifts a little bit. You don't necessarily need a dedicated slot corner if you've got multiple guys who can rotate in there. That's why when you're building this roster out, you feel comfortable keeping Durant and Moore as your next guys up outside, knowing that the flexibility exists to plug different pieces into different spots depending on what the game plan demands. And all of this, every single piece of it, goes back to Christian Parker and the trust the Cowboys have placed in him. I mean, think about what happened this offseason. Two guys who wore captain's patches on this defense last year are gone, not because of salary cap gymnastics, because Christian Parker needed to build this thing his way, with his guys in his system. That's a massive statement from this organization. They're saying, here are the tools, here are the resources, now go build us something special. And the moves they've made, drafting Malachi Lawrence for that juice off the edge, keeping faith in Shavon Revel at corner, adding Cobie Durant as proven depth, taking a shot on Devin Moore in the 4th round, all of it feels like a coordinated plan rather than just throwing darts. So yeah, when people ask me what I think about this Cowboys draft and this offseason overall, I keep coming back to the same thing. Caleb Downs is getting all the shine, and he deserves it, but Malachi Lawrence might be the pick that defines this era of Cowboys defense. And that CB2 battle, that's going to be the most entertaining thing to watch when training camp rolls around. I genuinely cannot wait.